This week's Parsha, the Sikha is going to be in Chelik Yudches, the fourth Sikha for Parsha Baaloshcha. In this week's Parsha, Parsha Baaloshcha talks about Pesach Sheni, which means when the Eden were in the Midbar, the first Pesach they were, after they came out of Mitzrayim, the next year, Hashem told them to bring the Korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, 14th day of the month of Nisan. There were some people who were Tomei, so they came to Moshe Rabbeinu and they said, Lama Nigora, why should we miss out? We can't bring the Korban Pesach, because if you're Tomei, you can't bring a Korban. So why should we miss out? So the Eibusha said, Daber told Moshe, speak to the Eden, to say it like this: if a person will be Tomei, or he will be in a far place, Lochem, which is to you, and we'll see the Taich. For also Pesach Lashem, he should make a Korban Pesach when? Should be on the second month, the month of Iyar, 14th day of Iyar, in the afternoon, he should bring Pesach Sheni. That's the din of Pesach Sheni. So the Sikha starts that the Negei Pesach Sheni is Bavuz the word for Rebbe. Concerning Pesach Sheni, we know the word of the Rebbe, which means the Friedrich Rebbe. And he says like this: Pesach Sheni in Yonah is, what's the union of Pesach Sheni? As in talking profound. There's nothing lost. It's never too late. We can always fix. I feel him Mishahoya Tomei. He calls the lotion of the Pasuk. Even if somebody was Tomei, or somebody is far away. I mean, he's spiritually is far away. And then Afilu Lachem, the Pasuk says, or then Lachem. What does Lachem mean? So he teaches Lachem means Ados is given saying to you. It's not only that there was some circumstance that you couldn't bring the Korban Pesach. You the Dafke the Kavanah intentionally did not bring the Korban Pesach on Erev Pesach. So the Pasuk says, from deswegen kann man Mesaken sein, still you could fix it. That's what the Pesach Sheni is. And the Pasuk says that if you didn't bring, whichever way, didn't bring the Korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, you have a second chance, you could bring the Korban Pesach a month later. It shows that never, you miss something else, never too late, you could always make it up. So the Rebbe says, that from Hashem we have to understand. And the Rebbe is going to ask a kasha that this doesn't seem to fit with the halacha of what's the union of Pesach Sheni. But before the Rebbe has the kasha, he gives an introduction, because the Chura, one might say, it fits to certain opinions, but doesn't fit according to the halacha. And we find in Chassidus that Chassidus explains in Yonim, even if it's not according to halacha, as long as there's opinion like that, Chassidus explains it. So Meil is a Chassidish word. So Meil, even if it doesn't fit according to halacha, not such a terrible thing. It's still, you could say the pshat. So the Rebbe says, that we have to understand. Henemes, it's not true. Adin Yonim beautiful pnimis atera. That the Yonim and the explanation that we find in Chassidus pnimis atera. Zayin lepomim like 10 day in Nigla atera. Sometimes it only goes according to one opinion in Nigla. Afilu and the halacha is there. Even the case where the halacha is like another opinion. Chassidus still gives explanations and biurim and lessons taken from an opinion which is not halacha. It says that if it's Torah, so both opinions are Hashem's words, even if it's the one opinion that's not according to halacha. And he brings a proof to this, that even the opinion that's not a halacha is still Torah. We know that you're not allowed to learn Torah unless you make a birchas HaTorah. So we do every morning, we make a birchas HaTorah, and we're allowed to learn Torah. But you're not allowed to learn Torah before you make a bracha. What happens if a person wants to learn, he's going to learn something in Gemara or whatever, in Shulchan Aruch, which is not according to halacha. The halacha is not like that. It's an opinion. Can you learn it without birchas HaTorah? You can't. And he gives an example. If you want to learn the opinion of Beishamai, we know there's a rule, if there's a machlekes Beishamai and Beisila, the halacha is always like Beisila. So much so that the Gemara says that Beishamai b'mokem Beisila ain't a Mishnah. Beishamai's opinion against Beisila is not even called a Mishnah. It's basically seemingly to say nothing. Nevertheless, you cannot learn the das of Beishamai in Gemara or das of an opinion that's not up the halacha without making birchas HaTorah. Why? Because it is Torah. So b'meil, if every opinion is Torah, we understand why sometimes Chassidus will explain a beer and learn a lesson from something which is not up the halacha. Alpha became, but still, it's much more gishmak, it's much better. If it fits according to the opinion that this is the halacha, that's even better. It's even more that we have to take a lesson from here. Especially in our case, what the lotion is, Ados is in Yoneh from Pesach Sheni. The lotion of the Friedrich Rebbe is that this is the inyan of Pesach Sheni. So it seems more like this is the inyan lahalacha. It's not just according to one opinion. This is the inyan. So it makes more sense that what the Friedrich Rebbe said, that Pesach Sheni teaches you that it's stuck in farfalm, but never too late. should fit according to the opinion about what's up. That's Api Halacha. But L'chore, the Rebbe is going to say that it doesn't seem, superficially, it seems that this word does not fit according to opinion of Halacha. Which opinions? So there are three opinions. What din of Pesach Sheni is this? The obligation of bringing the korban Pesach Sheni. Now, in order to understand the three opinions, it's Kedai, the Sicha in the Sicha Schelik Yud Ches. The Sicha right before this one talks about the same meaning, a different Nekuda, but the same Gemara. And there he actually explains what the three opinions are. So I'm going to mish back to that. Anybody who has the Sefer with him and wants to look, could look back to the Sicha before. I'm not going to read it. It's the first page only that tells us the three opinions, but it touches clearly what the three opinions are, and it's important to know. I'm not going to read Mamish word for word in Yiddish, but I'll say what it says. The three opinions are like this in Gemara. One opinion is Regel b'fnei atzmehu, that Yudalet, the 14th day of Iyar, is a yonta for itself. It's a special day for itself. That's the opinion of Rebbe, and that's the halacha. And we'll see what the pshat is. Second opinion is that Pesach Sheni is tashlumin derishnu, tikun le'misakinulei, that it's only to make up for Pesach Rishon. If you miss Pesach Rishon, you miss the Korban Pesach on the regular Pesach, you could make it that you could be mash from it. So the first opinion is it's a yontiv on its own. It's a korban that's brought for that day on its own. The second opinion, it's to make up tashlumin if you missed out the first korban Pesach. And the third opinion is takante derishon. It's a fixing of the first korban Pesach if you missed it out. What is the difference? So Rebbe explains here the difference is, especially the way it's explained in the Tshuva of Rabbi Avraham ben Arambam. So it's like this. According to the opinion, it's a regel b'fnei the yonta for itself, which means like this, that Pesach Sheni is not dependent on the obligation of Pesach Rishon. It's a chiyuv be'atzmik mishar el-golim. Just like every yonta, there are certain obligations. The 14th day of Iyar, there's an obligation to bring a korban Pesach. But there's a condition to that obligation. You have to bring a korban Pesach on the 14th day of Iyar. But the condition is if you didn't bring Pesach Rishon. It's not to fix what you missed up in Pesach by not bringing Pesach Rishon. Everybody, you have to bring a korban. But if you brought Pesach Rishon, then the obligation is not there. And therefore, what's nafkin halacha? How you call it? What's the difference if you call it it's to mashlim, to fix or not? The difference is if a ger was nisgayer between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni. A goy that converted after Pesach, before the 14th day of Iyar, or a cotton, a child that became bar mitzvah between Pesach Rishon and Pesach Sheni. He has to bring Pesach Sheni. See, according to the other opinions, that Pesach Sheni is to fix what you missed out in Pesach Rishon, and according to the two ways, I will see the difference between the two ways, but whichever way it is, the two, it's because you missed Pesach Rishon, you have to bring Pesach Sheni. But a goy wasn't obligated to bring Pesach Rishon. When Pesach was, he wasn't obligated. A cotton wasn't obligated, so he didn't miss anything. So he would not have to bring Pesach Sheni, even though he didn't bring Pesach Rishon. But if you hold it to yontif for itself, you have to bring Pesach Sheni. There's a condition that if you brought Pesach Rishon, you don't. Since the goy that's again now did not bring Pesach Rishon because he didn't have to, the cotton didn't have to, doesn't matter. He still, according to other opinions, he doesn't bring he doesn't have to bring Pesach Sheni. But according to the opinion regular he has to bring Pesach Sheni. Okay. What is the difference between the two, the next two? So here are the din that according to this opinion, even if you didn't have to bring Pesach Rishon, you still bring Pesach Sheni. It's a yontif for itself, a day for itself. If you hold it's a makeup, a tashlumim for Pesach Rishon, that means like this. The din is that if a person didn't bring the korban Pesach, he's chayiv kores. The punishment is kores. So according to this first opinion that we call tashlumin, that it makes up for the first, is like this. When you didn't bring Pesach Rishon, and obviously b'mezid, you are chayiv kores. Right away, you're chayiv kores. The Torah just says, I have a way for you to get out of kores. And that is by bringing Pesach Sheni. But what happens if you didn't bring Pesach Sheni without intention? B'shegi, something came up and you couldn't bring Pesach Sheni. You didn't bring Pesach Rishon, b'mezid, intention, and you're chayiv kores. But then you decided you're going to do tshuva and you're going to bring Pesach Sheni. And if you bring Pesach Sheni, there is no more kores. It takes away the kores. What happens if you didn't bring? Didn't intend not to bring, but you didn't bring. There was some circumstance that made it you couldn't bring. Too bad. You're chayiv kores. The only way you can get rid of kores is if you bring Pesach Sheni. You didn't bring Pesach Sheni for whatever reason, even if it was b'shegeg, it's still chayiv kores. And the third opinion is to counter the Risha, it's takon, it's to fix the Pesach Risha, meaning like this. For not bringing the Korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, the regular Korban Pesach, you're Chayiv Koros, but you're not Chayiv right away. You're not Chayiv Koros till you don't bring Pesach Sheni. So when Pesach Sheni comes, that's when, if you didn't bring it, you're Chayiv Koros. So what happens if you didn't bring Pesach Sheni b'Shegeg? According to this opinion, you won't be Chayiv Koros. Because for Shegeg, you're not Chayiv Koros. According to the previous opinion, even though you didn't bring it b'Shegeg, but you're Chayiv Koros already. You could take it off if you bring Pesach Sheni. If you didn't, for whatever reason, you didn't take away the Koros. According to this opinion, you're not Chayiv Koros yet. The Hashem leaves you a chance for Pesach Sheni, and if you didn't bring Pesach Sheni, b'Meised you're Chayiv Koros. But if you didn't bring it b'Shegeg, so the Chayiv Koros can't come, because the Chayiv Koros only comes after not bringing the Pesach Sheni. You can't make some Chayiv Koros if he did it b'Shegeg, and you're only Chayiv Pesach Sheni. These are the three opinions. So you have the first opinion that it's a Yom Tov for itself. You have to bring the Pesach Sheni. On Yudalad, 14th day of year, you have to bring a Korban Pesach. But if you brought the first one, then you're not Chayiv. But if you didn't bring the first one, no matter what, even if you weren't Chayiv, because you were a Goy or you were a Cotton, you still have to bring Pesach Sheni. These are the three opinions. And that's the first. The second opinion is that it's to fix, to be mashlim, which means to make up for the first. But the din will be that if you didn't bring the second one, whichever way, you're Chayiv Koros. And the third opinion is that it's to be Nisakan, that means you're not Chayiv Koros unless you don't bring Pesach Sheni. And if that was B'Shegeg, you're not Chayiv Koros. The Rebbe asks Sirakasha. The word of the Friedrich Rebbe, that Pesach Sheni means, Nishtoke Farfalm, you could fix what you missed out by not bringing the Pesach Rishon, does not fit according to the halacha, that it's a regel b'fnei atzmi, it's a yontif for itself. And this is what the Rebbe says. Mainly, if you hold the Pesach Sheni, is to make up the fact that you missed out Pesach Rishon. He's moving was mezok the gay Pesach Sheni, so we understand why he's considering Pesach Sheni. In Yonah is what's the union of Pesach Sheni? You talk your farfal. It's never too late. Then can all fight richten you could always fix. And because the whole Korban Pesach is to fix what you did, what you missed out before. The day as the content also according to the opinion that is lechatchila made to fix, and you're not chayiv koros until you don't bring Pesach Sheni. But Pesach Sheni will prevent you from being chayiv koros. That means as a Torah had gesagt, wie zu mesaken sein, how you could fix durch makar and Pesach Sheni. By makar the Pesach Sheni, you fix that you never are chayiv koros. Eber hat das mit makar given the Pesach Rishon b'mezid. If you did not Pesach Rishon b'mezid, you could fix it up. So again here, this means that Pesach Sheni is to fix up what you did, Pesach Rishon. You missed Pesach Rishon. The Torah gave you, according to the opinions, the Torah gave you a chance to fix it up. But Leib das Rebbe was a zeh the halacha, but according to Rebbe, which is the halacha, as Pesach Sheni is regel b'fnei atzmihu, that Pesach Sheni is a yontev on its own, and eina Sheni tolu b'rishon. This is a lotion he brings from the Rabbi and Rambam, that the second is not dependent on the first. This is a chiyuv by itself. It's a chiyuv that you have to bring Pesach Sheni. But there's a condition, like I said before, and I'll repeat it again. It's a din that you have to bring a korban. But every korban has conditions. Condition of the korban is like this, like this. You have to bring up korban Pesach Sheni. If you brought Pesach Rishon, the condition is you don't bring Pesach Sheni. But if you didn't bring, no matter what, even if you were not obligated, you have to bring. So, according to that opinion, how could we say, according to that opinion, as in Yoni is as we talking for that the Inyan of Pesach Sheni, that it's never too late. You could fix what you missed out before. Pesach Sheni is not to fix anything. Pesach Sheni is a din for itself. But then the Rebbe says, Gor bepash is a kasha. If you look very, very simple, it's not a kasha at all. Why? For mafilu ladas Rebbe as regbut niatzmahu, because even according to Rebbe, that holds it's a yonta for itself, is the chiyuv from Pesach Sheni daf gedan when the rot mit makem given berishin. The fact is that even though, as I said before, it's only a condition that if you brought the first one, you don't bring the second. But Lopel Mamish, when do you bring the second? Only if you did not bring the first. These are Zayneb was what Makar and Pesach Berishin, Tonit bringing the Pesach Sheni. If you did bring Pesach Rishon, not only you don't have to bring Pesach Sheni, you're not allowed to bring Pesach Sheni. So it is connected to the first. And Nochmer, we go a step further. Even if you did not bring the Korban Pesach at the right time, the first Pesach, b'mezid intentionally, you could be makriv on the second, even if you hold, regel b'fnei atzmi. Kumt a chuy, so it comes out as eichle daite, even according to this opinion of Rebbe, is in yoneh from Pesach Sheni as in talking for pound. It still means that it's never too late. In other words, if it would be nothing to do, everybody would have to bring Pesach Sheni. It has nothing to do with Pesach Rishon. It doesn't make up for anything. The bottom line is, even though it's a din on its own, sof kol sof, it's only if you miss something out. And the Chanabi didn't do any aveda if you didn't bring this, the case of the Geret, but Lepel Mavish, you missed something out. If you look back at how the whole Pesach Sheni started in Chumash, that's how it was. Achidush, a mitzvah was gegeben geworden zu verrichten. The mitzvah was given, it was something new, something that wasn't there before, to fix something. Because the people who were Tomei couldn't bring, and they claimed to mention Lama Nigora, why should we miss out? He's gekommen the Tzivi Hashem. So Hashem said, that a person, the Tomei, will be far and be lachem. So Bechedesh Hashem, the Baaloshcha Yem Ben Arbaim, Yasei says, so make it to Dalet ear. So it was an answer to somebody who's claiming that I missed Pesach Rishon. So we do see there's a connection. And this that Rebbe says that it's a separate yontiv on its own is it's only negated to one thing, that if you were not chayiv in Pesach Rishon, or let's say a person with Pesach Rishon did not bring the korban b'shegeg, so now you have to bring Pesach Sheni. So you are chayiv kores if you did not bring Pesach Sheni. Even if for Pesach Rishon you were not chayiv. See, normally the ikar is Pesach Rishon, and for that you're chayiv kores if you didn't bring. You could fix it up at Pesach Sheni. But what happens if you didn't have to bring Pesach Rishon? So you might think there is no kores because the whole Pesach Rishon Sheni is or tashlum in the Rishon or takante the Rishon, but it's all because of Pesach Rishon. But if you didn't have to bring, but there was no chiyuv Pesach Rishon, you wouldn't be chayiv kores. So he says no. The ones that have to bring Pesach Sheni have their own chiyuv. And if you didn't bring Pesach Sheni, you are chayiv kores. For instance, if somebody b'shegeg or b'eines by mistake, or he was forced and he didn't bring Pesach Rishon, so now you could say, well, so if he didn't bring Pesach Rishon, it wasn't his fault, so he cannot be chayiv kores anymore. So we say no. If he was mazid on Pesach Sheni, he is chayiv kores. And if you see Ha'ara 13, but according to the other opinions, whether it's Tashlum in the Rishon or Takante the Rishon, if you were b'shegeg in Pesach Rishon, and then you Mezi did not bring Pesach Sheni, you are potter from kores. Why? Because the main kores comes from Pesach Rishon, because that's the main korban. The second one is an extension. So if you weren't chayiv kores for the first, even because you were shegeg, let's say, or eines, even if you didn't bring the second one, Mezi, you're potter from kores, because it's only a connection, a hemshech, a continuation to Pesach Rishon. But according to Rebbe, he says it's a yontif for itself, and therefore, even if you were not chayiv for Pesach Rishon, and you didn't bring Pesach Sheni b'mezid, you are chayiv kores. But it's still, that's what's negeya, but it's still connected that you bring it only if you didn't bring Pesach Rishon. So the kasha we asked Schapiro, how does the Friedrich Rebbe, a fixing of the first, when we paskin, it's a yontif b'fnei regel b'fnei, not such a real kasha in pashtus. Because as far as we're going to go, sof kol sof, it is only if you miss Pesach Rishon, for whatever reason. So Taka, you could answer that, but it's verstandig, but it's not understood for a different reason. In terms of because it's a yontif for itself, Rebbe holds a paska the Rambam, that's what the Rambam says, as eich gershen is gayer b'shnei psochim. If a ger was converted between the two Pesachs, v'chein kotten sheigel b'shnei psochim, or a child, a cotton that became a girdle, an adult, became bar mitzvah in the middle between the two Pesach. Chayiv vas is Pesach Sheni, he has to make Pesach Sheni. And here, this is a case where he had no connection to Pesach Rishon. In other cases, I said before, that even if you were shegeg and you're not chayiv, you bring Pesach Sheni and it has its own din. But nevertheless, it's still connected to Pesach Rishon. But by the case of a ger, there was no Pesach Rishon by him. He was a goy. So it has nothing to do with Pesach Rishon b'chlal, according to Rebbe. And a cotton also seemingly does nothing to do with Pesach Rishon because he's a cotton. How do we tell there, and how do we tell the cotton that what your union of Pesach Sheni is? As in the talk of our fall means that you're not too late, you never missed out. Sie sagen doch nicht, gewähren wir Pesach. They didn't miss anything to begin with. How does he say to them that your Pesach Sheni is to tell you that you're making up what you missed? You didn't miss anything. So how does that work feel? Here the Rebbe goes in more detail. When you get to Kotn Shigel B'Shnei Tzachim, was Chayiv Lasses Pesach Sheni, because so we have two cases here. The Gerish was misgayer between the two, and the Kotn that became a Godel between the two. And the Kasha is on both. They both were not Chayiv. So that is going to show that by a Kotn, that's not really true. There is a connection between the Kotn and Pesach Rishon. Even though it was a Kotn, but he has a Shaykhas of Pesach Rishon. And we could consider it that even though he wasn't Chayiv, but he missed something out that he could have had. But by him, you could explain that Pesach Sheni is it's not related to. How do we see by a Kotn? He was not Mechuyah. So by a Kotn, when we say that if he became his Chayiv Pesach Sheni, these in them Mudgish der Inyan as it's talking for a fall. How is by a Kotn? You could stress and bring out the point that it's not too late. How is it by a Kotn? By a Kotn, I could explain it to them. I said, yes, Levayah. You could, it's not so simple, but there is a way to answer it. How? That the Kotn has a Shaykhas the Pesach Rishon. The Baal as a Kotn is Nimne from Korban Pesach. You could count in a Pesach, a Kotn on Korban Pesach. So do I mean that in order to do the Korban Pesach, you have to first sign up. You have to have a group sign up. So you could sign up a child under Bar Mitzvah. There isn't even an opinion when the Torah says that every family should join the Korban Pesach, includes a Kotn. So a Kotn could have a part in the Korban Pesach. And Nochmer, go further to show how he has a Shaykhas to the Korban Pesach on Pesach, Erev Pesach, because the Rambam paskin toch as im shochte all of it from Kotn B'Rishon, Potter from Pesach Sheni. The Rambam says if the father did include his son the Kotn in Pesach Rishon, that does not to Pesach Sheni. Zetten doch as a Shaykhas to the mitzvah Korban Pesach. So we see that Kotn does have a Shaykhas to the first Korban Pesach and Pesach Rishon. The Meile, so here you could say he's in a fall ben lei shochte all of B'Rishon. So when they did not bring it, when Higdal b'Shnei Pesachim, when he became Bar Mitzvah, became a Godel after Pesach, before the second Pesach, is there Chayiv last is Pesach Sheni am Enfant Tashlumin. So by him, it's also making up something that he missed because he could have brought the Korban Pesach. So he did miss something. And in Yonah is that you could say by him the Inyan isn't talking for a fall. There's nothing not too late for Pesach Rishon that you're making up, and it's never too late to make up for Pesach Rishon. You was a Kotn. Was Amy wollte if he makar given B'Rishon, wollte given Potter in Pesach Sheni. Because had he brought Pesach Rishon, had they included him in the Korban, he would have been Potter for Pesach Sheni. That means that he had a Shaykhas of Pesach Rishon. The Mele, so even Kotn, even though he was not Mechuyev, but we still see how we could tell him, even if you hold the regular with how you could tell him that Pesach Sheni is to make up what you missed. Over the Ger, it's a Gershon is Gayer, but concerning a Ger which we converted after Pesach, the Sarah didn't get shum Shaykhas to Pesach Rishon, as there was a guy had no connection to Pesach Rishon, so he didn't miss anything. He was Shaykhas to Zogen by him as he's talking for a How do we say by him that there's nothing too late? And this makes up what you missed out. You didn't miss out anything. So it comes out that going down nitty-gritty from the opinion of Rebbe, Sof Kosov, not is Inyan is not always talking for found to everybody. There is a case where she's talking for found. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says this is the Inyan of Korban Pesach of Pesach Sheni, seemingly in all situations. The Shleimer Rabbi is the Rebbe is explaining like this. The other Rabbi says, go contrary. Das Rebbe as regular Ptiatzmi, according to Rebbe, that it's a yonte for itself, bringt Taruis mehr the Minyan as it's not talking for found. As the Rebbe will explain, brings out even more how Pesach Sheni is to make up what you missed out. The Lady Deus, even more than the other opinions, as Tashlumin the Rishon, that the counter the Rishon, whether it's making up, fulfilling what you missed out, or you're fixing what you missed out, etc. Why? How is it more? So he says like this. Lady Deus, as Tashlumin the Rishon, the counter the Rishon, according to the other two opinions, is the Ikes Man Korban Pesach, Hakrovas HaPesach, Bisman Pesach Rishon, B'Dal B'Nisim. According to both of those opinions, the main Korban Pesach is the 14th day of Nisan Erev Pesach. And that's the time of the Korban Pesach. But the Masaka Zayt Mchiyav was the Ratavzir from Pesach Rishon. You could fix up or the Mashlim, the obligation you had before that you missed out. The Torah given noch as man Pesach. The Torah didn't give you another time. In other words, as much as you fix it up, you're not doing it in the right time. But the Torah said, okay, we'll take it. But the Torah never made, according to those opinions, that Pesach Sheni is its own, on its own right, the concept of a Korban Pesach in its time. It's not its time. because according to these two opinions, it's only fixing what you missed out in Pesach Rishon. According to Rebbe, Rebbe doesn't say it's a mitzvah b'fnei atzmei. Rebbe says it's a yontiv b'fnei atzmei. He's talking about the time. Yontiv is what the day is. It's a special day of a yontiv. But the Torah gave Neisev of this month from Pesach Rishon. Besides that, there is a time of Pesach Rishon, time of when it's the time of the Korban, Eicha Regel. It gave us another yontiv, Zman b'Yudaled Ir if Hakrov Pesach. Gave us a new Zman. There is another date that you could have, that whatever you missed, Pesach Rishon has a special Indian of the day. Pesach Sheni is a day for itself. When it is Makrib then Pesach, but Yudaled Be'ir, when you Makrib the Korban Pesach, the 14th of year, the second time, is as they suffer to Mashum Zayin Kosav Sefer Afel V'Hakrov Pesach Rishon. So in addition that it's making up what you missed out in Pesach Rishon, Eich B'fnei Atzmei Hakrov Pesach. It's also on its own a Zman of Pesach. Yudaled Ir is Zman from Hakrov Pesach. It is the day when you bring the Pesach. That's the time of the Korban Pesach. Me'ah day from Pesach. It's the Me'ah day. It's time of the Korban Pesach. The says it means like this. L'das Rebbe, according to Rebbe, is mechuyev Pesach Sheni. You have to bring Pesach Sheni. Nicht weil Atim is geblieben machiv Korban Pesach Yudaled Nisan. Not because you had an obligation on the date of Yudaled Nisan. You didn't utilize it. You still have that obligation. So that obligation is still on you. So the Torah gave you another way to fix up the time of Pesach. That's how it is according to the opinion of the other two opinions, that you have an ability to make up, and what you missed out on Pesach, you will have to pay. That Pesach you will fix now. But according to Rebbe, it's not like that. Nor by Yudaled Be'ir is Azman, but it's a time when it deserves the Korban Pesach. Listen, but that's a condition. That's only if you didn't bring the Pesach in the first time. And the question is, why take is it that if you brought the first time, you don't bring the second time? Not because it's not the date of the Korban Pesach. So the Churif, it's also a date of the Korban Pesach. You should bring both. Even if you brought the first, you bring the second. So the Rebbe explains in brackets, das was Hikira Pesach B'Rishon darf nicht machen sein Pesach Sheni. The reason you brought Pesach Rishon, you don't bring Pesach Sheni, but if Yitzias Mitzrayim is not in Korban, because it's a Korban for Yitzias Mitzrayim, you don't need it once. So if you brought already once, you don't have to bring a second time. And the one that didn't bring the first time brings the second time because this is the day of the Korban Pesach. It has a day of a Korban Pesach itself. But Meile, those was Pesach Sheni in Yonis, and he's talking about this that we said Pesach Sheni shows you is the Indian that it's not too late. Is the Kavonin, the Mishnah Ramekan Almo Farichten. It's not only that you could always fix something that you missed. Azach was not farfelt, something that you missed out. You're able to fix that Indian. Nor severt ufgiton. In alle protein, the pool is b'shleimus. Paket, according to Rebbe, what Rebbe says, there's a certain nekuda. We'll see how it fits to the ger and this, but the nekuda that what is Pesach Sheni, not only you could fix what you had before, what you missed out before. The Torah said that when you go to fix it, you have this man like the other guy before. It's not only you fix it, you're making up what you missed out before. The time is like before, and you have to make it up. The Torah gave you the same time, the same way there's a din of Pesach Rishon, that date you are doing the same thing. So you can imagine how much it makes up what you missed out before. It makes it up fully, 100% makes it up. That the date you have is the same date as them. But he says, this will explain also how it works by a ger who became a ger between the two Pesachs, or a cotton that became. And we don't have to answer it by the cotton like we said before, because after all, he has a shaykhs even to Pesach Rishon. A new word here. This is that they have to bring the Pesach Sheni. Even though they missed nothing out by not bringing Pesach Rishon, because they didn't have to, there was no obligation. Since according to Rebbe, and this is the halacha, it's not only in the Tzanuch Chiddush, the Rebbe says in the holy name of Pesach Sheni, it's a Chiddush Nigle, but he brings out in the Aveda Inyan, but it's a Chiddush Nigle, that the Pesach Sheni is the Zman HaPesach. This is the Zman HaPesach. So you're not just fixing up something you missed in the past, so now you're going to fix up the past. The Torah gave you that you could do a chiyuv now as the chiyuv was before. But a seicha shaycha to ger v'kotna now, so it has a shaycha to the ger v'kotna also. By on them matzav as they stay in yudalad years, and they mechuy the mitzvahs. Since they are now a ger or a kot or a gadol, they're mechuy the mitzvahs now. So we're telling him that you will have the same mitzvah as the Yidden had before. You have the same, you have the full mitzvah. So we show how it affects, the greatness of this, how it could make up, even to a ger and to a cotton, that have nothing missed. We tell him, you're still making up, but not making up something that you missed, but you have exactly what they had, all the other Yidden who brought. Pesach Rishon, you have the exact same thing, because it's not just a makeup. See, if you learn it's just a makeup, so they don't have to make anything up. But we're saying it's not to make up. It is a day for itself, equal to that. So that's also a concept of talking for a foul in a deeper way. Talking for a foul means you missed out, now you can make up. It means that we're giving you the chance to do the exact same thing that you were not mechuyev before, but you're able to do it and have the same thing you had before. Apia now the Rebbe says, according to this, according to this, the Rebbe says we go deep with shot. So far we learned there's two opinions, Tashlumin and Takante Rishon. The Rebbe says it's nothing to do with Pesach Rishon. It's not Tashlumin. And the Rebbe says, according to what I just explained now, it is, in addition to what he said, the regular Fnasmi, it is to make something up from before. A different type of making up, but it is Tashlumin. How is it Fitur Tashlumin? Tashlumin means you miss something and now you make it up. If you didn't miss anything, you can't make it. There's no union of making it up. You don't have to make it up. But the Rebbe says a different shot. In the Baaloshcha Tashlumin and Dotzvei Pirushim. When you say Tashlumin, you make up, you fill, make it shleimus. They're two pshatim. Number one, to make up something that was lacking. So you fill it in. So Tashlumin means to fill in. You have a hole and there's something missing, you fill it in. Another type is shleimus. Shleimus means completion. It's possible that something is not missing. You could call it shleimus if you could add on top of what it has, which is not missing. In other words, you could have everything full, it's not missing. So you can't say you're mashlim what's missing, but you could say you could add to it and make it more b'shleimus, more complete. Where do we see it? In certain dinim it says it has to be a complete year. And the Gemara asks, what is Pshat Shana Tmimo? It says a complete year. So the Gemara zog as Tmimo means ganz. Tomim means tam ganz, complete. A year is a year. A year is a complete year. What's a year? Full year. What do you mean at Shana Tmimo? So the Gemara says at Tmimo is lohavi chedesh ibur. That if it's a ibur year, if it's a leap year and has extra month, that's included. It's negay like if you sell a house and then you first year you could buy it back, whatever, the whole thing there, it says what happens if the year is extended and there's 13 months to the year, it's included in the year. Which means like this. It's a year without that extra month. You know, a year is 12 months. It's felt near. There's nothing missing there. Nevertheless, the 13th month is called Tumimo. It means it's complete. So it's a different shot than complete. Complete is not that you're missing. You weren't missing anything, but this adds. Another example. In the Beis Hamikdash, there are certain things called Aveda. Not everything is called an Aveda. Whatever is called an Aveda, which are four things, which is Shchita, and then Kabbalah Saddam to receive the blood, Shechting, slaughtering, receiving the blood, and Helocha, taking the blood to the Mizbeach, and then Zerika Saddam, to spritz the blood. And if you have a wrong machshava, a wrong thought during any of these four things, it makes it possible, whatever it is in certain cases. But in those four Avedas, es is do an Aveda she'eina tamo, you could have an Aveda, one of them, three of them are called Aveda that's not full, which is a Vyesh Achra Aveda. If there is something that has to continue after that. Azevi, Shchite, Kabbalah, V'Elocha. The first three, Shechting, receiving the blood, taking the blood to the Mizbeach, Sheyesh Achra Zika, there's still something afterwards. After Shchita, you have to do Kabbalah. After Kabbalah, you have to do Elocha. After Elocha, you still have to do Zrika. But Zrika, the spritzing of the blood, which is the end, Aveda Tamo is an Aveda Shigemeres Umatameres as Adover. That's what finishes off. So what's the Aveda that finishes off? This is in this case, as a Zrike Vaktore, Nisu Chamayim, like Zrike, by the case of the korban when you spritz the blood, that's called Aveda Tamo. Or some by Maktir, your Maktir, like by Mincha, by whatever, by other kabbanas, or Nisa Chamayim when you pour the water. These are the last things that you do. They're called Aveda Tamo. Now, Chochas felt nicht in der Etzem Aveda. The first three is also a real Aveda. There's nothing we say is lacking something. That's why it's called Einot Tamo. It's not complete. She's getan geworden to the boy. It's done properly. That's the aber nicht angerufen Aveda Tamo. You don't call it Tam, Aveda Tamo. Al Yesh Achrei Aveda. There's still something more that should be added. And the Aveda Shel Achrei is geremes mit tamemes adover. The next Aveda finishes it off. She is gerem umashlam the Aveda keremes. That finishes off. But the Leib, therefore, is by the Avedas Hakedim is the first Avedas. A non-Kayan is not allowed to do any of these Avedas. You only chayiv misa if you a Zor, a non-Kayan did the Aveda Tama, which is the Zrikas Adam or the Aktora, the Nischamayim, the last one. So we see that you can have something that's complete, but in completion there is two dargas. There's complete. Complete meaning is not missing anything. And then there's another taichin complete, that it's on top of it. Cherry on top of what we call it, on top. And that's called another pshat in the word shleimus. Das is another example. We find by Tzedakah, the Pasuk says that you have to give an oni, dei machseirei asher yechsalei. Whatever he is missing, whatever he is lacking, that he's missing. So the Gemara darshans, dei machseirei. What does the Torah mean? Giving him enough that he's missing. At the mitzvah of lefarnasei, you have to give him parnasei. You have to give him a livelihood. And the pasuk asher yechsalei, whatever he's missing. Afila sus lirkevol of eved loris lefon. If he was used always to have a horse to ride on, or he had an eved, a slave running in front of him. If that's what he got used to, that's how he was before he was rich. If that's what he had before, got used to it. That's called now. If he doesn't have it, he's missing it. And therefore you have to give him. But then for them, there is some another level. The Gemara says, the Rebbe doesn't quote these words, but the Gemara says, you don't have to make him rich. You don't have to, only have to give him what he was missing. So there is a level beyond what he's missing, and that's riches. It's not something that's missing, but it's called Oshrei. Now, the Chura Yitaka don't have to give him. But L'chura, what the Rebbe means, he doesn't say clearly. This is one of the sticky parts here that you don't know exactly what he means, and a bit later it'll be the same. Kuda, that Gemara says you don't have to give him la'oshrei, you don't have to make him rich. But is mashma that what happens if he was rich before that? He was more even than a sus lirkevol of an evet or. You have to give him. He says up to even giving an evet because he was used to it. It was choser. But if he was La'oshrei, something that's more rich, you would have to give him that also. But that's called La'oshrei. Doesn't say here. But there is a level called La'oshrei, even though it's not Yechsalei. So for the Lashon of the Gemara, it says there's Yechsalei and there's La'oshrei. And La'oshrei, you could give him something that is on top of Yechsalei. And certain cases, you would even have to give him that. And maybe even if it's the din, you have to look into the din. I didn't look into it. That after you give him, then whatever you gave him, and he had whatever he needed, and for somehow he got used to something even more than that, you have to give him that too now. Because now that became by him a chesoron, but it's not really a chesoron, it's be'etzem not a chesoron. Nobody's a chesoron if you don't have something more. But if that's by him, so you have to give it him a shleimus. It's not exactly clear exactly to which halacha the Rebbe is referring to. But the bottom line is we see two things. We see yechsalei and we see la'oshrei, which is mashlam a chesoron, filling up a chesoron, and then the union of more than that. Now that we said that the shlumin could also mean not that you're filling something that's missing. Rebbe is trying to bring how even according to Rebbe, that has nothing to do with Pesach Rishon, it still has a meaning of tashlumin. Tashlumin, you're not fixing up. It has nothing to do with Pesach Rishon. But because we said that it gives you this inyan that you have everything that was there in Pesach Rishon, so it's not in mashlam chesoron. You had no chesoron, but it is a shleimus that you have. He said, "This is the Rebbe says that the second one is not to fix up or to fulfill the first, but it's a yonta for itself. Main taruis bring it. What it means is deeper than the Rebbe. Ados is nicht azat tashlumin was ibedei mashum zayin choser. Rebbe also knows it's tashlumin, but it's not to fill something that you're missing. No regel b'fnei atzmei. It's a yonta for itself. Die Zach wird aufgetan b'shleimus. That's what we mean. According to Rebbe, you have the shleimus of Pesach, the shleimus of the Korban Pesach. That's also called tashlumin. So the shleimus of the Korban Pesach that was there before, and you're not missing it, but you're getting it. If you're not missing it, why you have to get it for? You're not missing it, so no. And even the Geret never needed it, and he's not missing it. Nevertheless, the Torah tells you this is going to give you a shleimus that you could have had before. And that's not because you're missing, that's more than what you're missing. When in them zin is eich by a gersh and this guy, do the ringe for tashlumin. By a ger, that was megayer in between the two Pesach, it's also tashlumin. As Afa Pi, as Frier hat nicht getort makrev sein, before he wasn't makrev. He wasn't allowed to, he was a guy, he couldn't allow to be makrev. He's me talking for phone. If our licht nicht the shleimus makrev Pesach. When we say he doesn't, even to him we say, it shows you that there's nothing, never too late, never too late. So normally we touch never too late means never too late. You miss something out, never too late, you can make it up. Never too late, even though you didn't miss it, but there was something there that you didn't have. We're not missing it, but we could, Pesach Sheni shows that you could even have that. You could have the shleimus, which is not making up a chasor, but it's still called shleimus. The Yutek Yesa, this will be more understood. Al Pi Adiyuk Hayadu from Chido, based on the Diyuk of the Chido, Baaloshcha and Gershon this guy and Nit Goshen this guy there. Chido asks a question. Why do we use a Loshen? Gershon is Gayer. A Ger is not Megayer. When he's Megayer, he's a Goy, and Goy is Megayer. So we should have said Goshen is Gayer. The Mizok Evet Nishtachre. By an Evet, we say if he was a slave and became free, he has a din of a Yid. We don't say V'shuchre Shem Mishtachre, a free one that free got freed, an Evet that Mishtach. Kotten Shegdel. We don't say Gordel Shegdel, a cotton that became an adult. Why do we say a Goshen is Gayer? So the Chido says, because he has a concept of a ger before he was megayer. Any ger any person that becomes a ger, what pushed him? Because be'em is someplace in him, in his neshama, whatever neshama goy has, there is some nitzutz of gedusha. Nor begilui, the goloi das haruz yikumen when it's megayer given. The gilui it comes out on his megayer. Kum tuis. So if you're saying that even this goy that was Megayer after Pesach, when Pesach was, he had a certain connection to the Korban Pesach. Why? Because he had a mitzvah of Dusha. Kum tu is as Pesach Rish is by him given a gewisse Sheiches from Pesach. Pesach Rish had a Sheiches. He wasn't Chayev, not a Sheiches. And Pesach Shemi is Tashlumim Melosh Shleimus in the Sheiches and the Pesach Rish. You could even say the Rebbe has another kvetcher that even out Shleimus from something that you missed, because it's Shleimus so much that even you had a Sheiches before and you didn't have it. Now you will have it. It'll make up what you're missing, and not only it'll make it what you're missing, it's going to give you the complete shleimus of it. And the Rebbe says, the Rebbe could go out because a deeper level in the shleimus that he's talking about. These two pirushim, that tashlumin means to make up what's missing, and the second one that makes on top of what you have, which is not missing, and you add, that's called tashlumin. So since they're both in the same word, is moving as der pirish tashlumim eloshin shleimus, but ashaychet zum pirish aposhe from tashlumim is mal mashlo nachoser. Rebbe always says anything that any word or any union that has two pshotim. So even though they might sometimes seem like two separate pshotim, if they're on the same word and the same union in Torah, they have a connection. So here you must say that tashlumim, this higher pshat tashlumim shleimus, has a pshat, has a connection to the pshat that you're filling up something that's missing. So remember, the Rebbe already said it before Beremes, but now he's teaching it this more. The Asbori in them, his explanation is like this. The Baldes ken sukum and lagabedem friedike matzav. Since when you say tashlumim melosh shleimus means that you could add to the previous situation, even though you weren't missing, but you could add to it. The moment you say it's a possibility to add, if you could add something and you did and you weren't missing, but you could have added and you didn't add it, to a certain degree, that also turns into something that you're missing. The shleimus wird together from der ganzen was es wie kennt kommen. Shleimus means it adds to the shleimus that you could have had, and you could have had it, wouldn't be missing. But if you look at it be'erech in comparison to what you could have had, you were missing. So it has a certain, so the tashlumin, the loshen shleimus, also has a connection to it because it turns into this. Kalderech in Gashmis canal, like Gashmis he said. Let's say this poor man, and if you give him ashiras, you give him, make him rich. Now that he got it and he got used to it, now it's not ashiras anymore. Ashiras always, what before means on top. There is what you're missing, and then there's different than that is ashiras, it's being rich, giving riches. Now that he got used to the riches, now if he doesn't have it, he's missing something. Now it's not a dover nice of something added, nor azach was yachsar lekenal afil erved lords to fund it. It's something that you're missing. And the Rebbe connects it to the Evet. So therefore I said before, it's not so posh. It seems like the Rebbe learns, I'm saying this on my own, and not from the Rebbe, but I'm going to say what I think, which is, that he's saying the famous words for Rabbi Kiva Eger. He said, I don't care if you say my chidushim in your name. Just don't say your chidushim in my name. I don't want to say anything in the Sikha, learning the Sikha, but I think the pshat that the Rebbe learns, the pshat here, when the Gemara says that Yachsarle means that even the Eved Lord of even to have an Eved, and even to have Lirkavolov, that is something specific. That means Be'etzem, that's also Ashiris. But it's a kind of Ashiris that you have to give him. And if you look back, could be that it means that when the Gemara says you don't have to make him rich, that means don't have to make him rich on top and beyond. But you do have to give him a certain level of Ashiris. So even when he had it before L'churi Yukatain, if you don't have to make him rich, even though he was used to it, so why do you have to give it to him? But it's Ashiris, and the Torah says, and this is a yin of Ashiris. So there are seemingly two levels of Ashiris. And when the Gemara says that you have to give him, as soon as that you have to give him a certain level of Ashiris, because that's Yachsalei. And the level beyond that, you don't have to give him. But what would be Take if he is used to something more than the regular Ashiris? Then you have to give him that too. It's not clear. I'm trying to put in the words. So, because he says here that the Yachsalei is Afil Eved Lotus before them is a gather of Ashiris. But the Gemara doesn't seem to be saying that. So I'm saying something along those lines. I'm not going to be meidig in this because it's not a little shot. Yeah, Shleima. So the Rebbe says over here we see that Shleimus could turn into Chson. Not could turn, is. When you're missing the Shleimus, really you're missing something from what you're supposed to have, but you're missing from the extra, and to a certain degree that's also called missing. Yeah, Shleima, Rebbe says, yes, as Beruchnis, but Machshove, Ba'avedis HaNefesh, and Ruchnis, and the person's Machshove, the way it's in Avedis Hashem, just like after you you're used to your riches, that becomes missing now if you don't have it. Even if you don't have riches, if you want riches, you long to have riches. So already not having it is called the chasson, because you feel that this is something that you want. The Baldas, when we came, since the Baal Shem Tov said that wherever a person machshava is, that's where he really is. So if you have your machshava in riches, so it's as if you're there, and if you're missing it, it's called chesed. When you get the riches, now not only it's really tashlumin on top of something that you're not missing, but really are missing. It's mamalas achosel. Over klap eshmaya galya, and the Eibishter knows. So if a person had in mind before, he didn't have this extra shiras, but he was striving to it and he wanted to become rich. And the Eibishter knows that. It's really by him, by the Eibishter, that you're missing it. Down here, Halacha says the Dayan, the judge, the Rav will paskin, based on what he sees, and he sees he wasn't used to the riches, so he wants to give it to him. When you actually see bepeil that he's actually missing it, but when do you see he's missing it? After he got it. But Be'em is just striving to it already makes that he's missing it. So in Mela, this all shows that the shleimus is a shleimus on top of what you're not missing, on top shleimus. And be'etzem, that is also called you're fixing something that you're missing. Because the shleimus, which really, basically, I'll put it in simple words. If something you're able to do b'shleimus in the second higher level of shleimus, you should do it in anything. You should do it b'shleimus. And as long as you don't do it b'shleimus, even though you're not missing, you are missing. Because really, you should do it b'shleimus. You have to do it to the best of your ability. Even though it's not be'emes. In simple terms, you're not missing, but in deeper terms, If you could do better, you're missing the better. The Gale Gershon is guy ben Pesach Pesach Sheni. So concerning get it was Megaya between the two Pesach. The Baal sich Eder sich Megaya given the pay. This is a shem from Frier Ager canal. Since as we said before as Megaya already potentially he had this Geirus in him. Hat in sich noch sein Agoy Anitzes von Hasham Desha. He already had a spark of a holy neshama. His Chotchas Begili das Aruzi kommen when sich Megaya given. When did it come out into the open? But he actually was Megaya. Demelt Vertob in his Gale. What does it show? As Eichle Mifreya Dim retroactive hotel mitzat an Neshama got a shaychat to mitzvah. He already had a shaychat to me. He wasn't mechuyev, but he had a shaychat. The Kumtuis has nit nor is a basic shleim with the Chakrobus of Pesach Sheni. Not only that when he brings Pesach Sheni, this ger is just bringing a shleimus, and we said before it's complete shleimus, like the person who brought Pesach Rishon. But it fills up that what he was missing. But mitzad an Neshama can give. Felt in the Pesach or Pesach Lishma. Because after his neshama, the shaykhs to Korban Pesach has a shaykhs to Yiddishkeit, so he was to a certain degree missing. And this, what you're doing, is both shleimus, the shleimus of what's missing, and shleimus on top of what's missing. The Yerof and them the lesson that everyone takes in his own way is like this. How much you have to get involved in spreading Torah and Yiddishkeit, and especially spreading the mayonas of Chassidus of Pnimis HaTorah. What does it show? A person could think to himself, the Arbeit is like a Zerechosh. It's very important to spread Yiddishkeit. It's very important. It's very important. But does it place a hiddur mitzvah? I have my mitzvahs. This is a hiddur to go out of my way and go even to help another person. He's a shleimus was let him zukum ever never to stone. When you will do it, you'll become on top of you. You could be shleimus and Torah. You could the first level you could be completely doing everything right, and this will be the top. What is over the hechlich in them? What is the island issue? Why do I must do it? It's only shleimus on top of what you're supposed to do, and it's only here. So what's the rush? I'll do it later. It's not so important. So we tell them as an inyan was made as his place as shleimus. When you something that you think is only shleimus on top, can go sein that bemis does vayim tashlo machosser. Bemis maybe normally take there's nothing missing if you don't do it. You just don't have the shleimus, but you never know. This really. If you could get that shleimus, this could be missing without doing it. In them was is maybe the Rebbe is going a step further. Not only because since you could do better, anytime you don't do better, it's called missing. It says in your case, in this case, maybe you are taka missing. You don't know it because generally speaking, you're a fine eater, did everything properly, but maybe you are missing what your neshama is supposed to do. Based on what? The Torah from Baal Shem Tov, we know the famous Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. Shem Tov said like this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu schickt up an Neshama of der Welt. Hashem sends down a Neshama to this world and lebt 70 oder 80 Jahre, with 70 or 80 years. But the Tachlis HaKavone from the Shlichus could be that a Yid, the Tachlis of his Aved and his Shlichus is to turn a Yid in Ateve in Gashmi is Bechlal and in Ruchni is Befrat. His mission, the reason he came down, and he has to keep all the mitzvahs obviously, but there's one Nekuda that was specially made for him, and that's why he came down to do a favor another Yid, the Gashmis, and even more Beruchnis. Ken Zayin, it could be as a deep favor was darf ton. So then in them talk, could be that favor that you have to do to this specific Yid, at that specific day, is their tachlis for Zayin Nashamas are upcoming of the world. The complete goal, why the purpose of why Nashama came to this world. Leib chas v'sholem farfeltos, need nor farfelt ashlemus. If you miss it, not only you miss the extra, but the ikya tachas l'yidus nishmos, you push and missed out in what the neshama came down for. The Baal das eigentlich toni idea adma, since no one knows, me weiß nicht welche pula is the so the welche sein neshama Rabbi kolam. We don't know which act is what this neshama came down here. Darf sein die saskas v'afotzi sayad is bei from the chatei v'achel v'chatei p'shti. So you have to do it chaparein. So Lashon of the Gemara says that this world is like a chasana. By chasana, when you see the food, you chaparein whatever you could do. Same thing. You never chapar any mitzvah that you could do. Anybody you could help. The baldas bola since it came to you and you have an opportunity to do it, that shows that it shaykhs to you. So you got a chaparein, and you never know which one is the one that's going to be the tachlis of your neshama. Them is mezeicha to the gula mitzvah v'ashleimo. So play on words. But mezeicha to the complete gula, the real gula, and the complete gula, the shleimo. In the Beit Taishim of Shleima, the Gula will have both interpretation of Shleima. As when Nishlam Alach Hasein is on the Golas, all the missing thing in Golas will be fulfilled. And as when Shleima is involved, and you'll also get the extra shleimus in Welt. No hecher wie die Welt more than it was in the normal way. The Golus is missing, but the way the world was created was not missing, and this will be even more, because it says Eile Tildes Hashemayim Voretz. The Gemara Darshan, what Bishat Tildes says Mole Teile Mamiluyin Nivra. The world was created complete, so the world is created, nothing missing. So we have, in addition to that, the second Eile Tildes Peretz Mole, the Tildes Peretz, which goes on the ancestor of Mashiach, and then it will be Mole, and this Mole means the Shleimus even not only filling there what's missing, it's a real Shleimus. Baaloshcha Rambam, like the Rambam says, at that time, be no hunger and no war, no jealousy and no competition. That means the first part Shleimus in the Chesaron. It won't have war, it won't have any negative things. There won't be any Chesaron, nothing missing. And then the Rambam continues in the same piece. The good will be so much, and the world will only be evolved in knowing Hashem. That is the second pshat in Shleimus. Shleimus Mamish, the real Shleimus. That's why he says Harbe more than never. And this should happen because of Mamish, the Bias Mashiach, the Keda, the Meheda, the Yemeinu Mamish.
Amen. Thank you.